My son and daughter-in-law forbade me from visiting their home for years, claiming it was under renovation. After their deaths, the lawyer gave me the keys and said, "It's yours now." I planned to sell it, but I had to see it first. When I opened the door, I couldn't breathe. I have always considered myself a practical woman. At 63, I've buried a husband, raised 2 children, and learned that life rarely offers the neat endings we imagine in our youth. So when Martin Gerard, my son Eric's attorney, called me 3 days after the funeral to discuss urgent matters regarding the estate, I expected paperwork, forms to sign, accounts to settle, the mundane aftermath of tragedy. What I did not expect were keys. "Mrs. May," Martin said across his mahogany desk, sliding a single brass key toward me. "This is for the coastal property in Mendocino County. Your son and daughter-in-law wanted you to have it." I stared at the key as if it might bite me. "That house? But I've never even seen it." "I'm aware." Martin's expression was carefully neutral, the practiced face of a man who kept other people's secrets. Eric was quite specific in his will. "The property transfers to you immediately, with full discretion over its use or sale." Why would they leave me a house they never let me visit? The words came out sharper than I intended. 5 years. 5 years of excuses whenever I mentioned wanting to see their coastal retreat. "It's under renovation, Mom. The road's washed out. We're having the septic system replaced. It's not safe for you." Always something. Always a reason to keep me away. Martin cleared his throat. "I think you should visit before making any decisions about sale or disposition." Eric was adamant about that. "Adamant," I repeated. My son had been adamant about many things, especially in those final years. Adamant that I not worry about why they'd stopped celebrating holidays with the family. Adamant that their work was too complicated to explain. Adamant that the coastal house was off limits. And now, he was dead. They both were. Eric and Rebecca lost in a boating accident off the Mendocino coast. Their bodies recovered 3 miles from shore. The Coast Guard said it was weather, a sudden squall, the kind that catches even experienced sailors off guard. Quick and brutal and final. I took the key. The drive north from Sacramento took about 5 hours. Most of it spent convincing myself this was foolish. I could have simply listed the property with a realtor, let them handle the photographs and staging and sale. At my age, I had no business maintaining a second home, especially one perched on the remote Northern California coast. But Martin's words haunted me. Eric was adamant. The house stood at the end of a private road, hidden behind a wall of cypress trees that had been bent and twisted by decades of coastal wind. It was larger than I'd imagined. A sprawling 2-story structure of weathered cedar and glass, built to face the ocean. The setting sun painted everything in shades of amber and gold. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, key in hand, trying to understand why my heart was racing. The front door opened easily, almost eagerly, as if it had been waiting. Inside, the entry hall was pristine. Hardwood floors gleamed. The air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner, and something else. Antiseptic, clinical. Not the musty abandonment I'd expected. "Hello?" My voice echoed through empty space. No answer. But the house felt occupied somehow, humming with recent presence. I moved deeper inside, past a living room furnished with simple practical furniture. Everything was clean. Too clean. The kitchen showed signs of regular use. Dish soap by the sink. A calendar on the wall marked with notations in Rebecca's neat handwriting. The most recent entry was dated 4 days before their death. Supply delivery 2 p.m. Check inventory. Supply delivery? For a house supposedly under renovation? The first bedroom I checked was empty except for a hospital bed. The second had 2 beds. The third had 3. All children's sizes, all equipped with IV poles and monitors. My hands started shaking. I found the main ward on the 2nd floor. 12 beds arranged in neat rows, each with medical equipment that looked expensive and new. Charts hung at the foot of each bed, though someone had removed the names. But I could see dates, medication schedules, treatment protocols. The handwriting alternated between Eric's aggressive scrawl and Rebecca's precise print. At the far end of the ward, a door stood slightly ajar. I pushed it open and found what could only be described as a laboratory. Microscopes, refrigerators with biohazard labels, shelves lined with medications I couldn't identify. A whiteboard covered one wall filled with complex formulas and notes that meant nothing to me. But one phrase circled in red marker was crystal clear. Treatment protocol 7, 73% positive response rate. I sank into a desk chair, my legs suddenly unreliable. My son and daughter-in-law had been doctors. Eric, a pediatric oncologist, Rebecca, a research biochemist. I knew they'd met while working at Stanford Medical Center. I knew they'd taken consulting positions that allowed them to work from home. I knew they'd lost their daughter Edith to leukemia when she was just 7 years old. What I didn't know was this. Any of this. I don't know how long I sat there before I noticed the filing cabinet in the corner. It was unlocked, practically inviting inspection. Inside I found folders organized by year, each containing dozens of files, not patient files. Those had been removed or destroyed, but correspondence, lots of it. Letters from desperate parents, emails printed on paper, all following the same heartbreaking pattern. My son was denied treatment. The insurance won't cover. The hospital says there's nothing more they can do. Please, is there any hope? And responses from Eric and Rebecca come to Mendocino. We'll see what we can do. I found photographs tucked into one folder. Children playing on the beach below the house. Children laughing in what looked like a makeshift playroom I hadn't yet discovered. Children with bald heads and thin arms. But smiling. Always smiling. One photo showed my son and daughter-in-law with a group of other adults in medical scrubs. The caption, written in Rebecca's hand. Team meeting. March 2024. Dr. Gregory's protocol shows promise. Team? What team? I heard the front door open downstairs. Footsteps in the entry hall. More than one person. Low. Worried. Sure. She's here. The car outside. It has to be her. Gerard said he gave her the keys 3 days ago. Does she know? Did Eric tell her anything? No. He was adamant about that. That word again. Adamant. I stood, still clutching a folder, and moved to the top of the stairs. 3 people stood in the entry hall below, all wearing civilian clothes, but with the purposeful bearing of medical professionals. They looked up when they heard my footstep creak on the landing. The woman in front, Asian, early 40s, spoke first. Mrs. May, I'm Dr. Clara Gregory. I worked with your son and daughter-in-law. Worked with them doing what exactly? My voice was steadier than I felt. Dr. Gregory exchanged glances with her companions. Perhaps we should sit down. There's a lot to explain. Start with why my son turned his house into a hospital without telling me. Not just a hospital, Dr. Gregory said softly. A refuge. And he didn't tell you because he was protecting you. What we're doing here, what Eric and Rebecca were doing, it exists in a legal gray area. The FDA doesn't recognize our treatment protocols. The medical establishment considers our methods experimental at best, dangerous at worst. If the authorities discovered this facility, if the wrong people started asking questions, she trailed off. But I understood the implication. My son was breaking the law? Your son was saving children's lives, one of the men said firmly. He was older, maybe my age, with salt and pepper hair and intense eyes. I'm Dr. James Morrison, retired oncologist. I've been volunteering here for 2 years. In that time I've watched children who were sent home to die go into complete remission. 73% positive response rate, I said, remembering the whiteboard. What does that mean? It means, Dr. Gregory said carefully, that nearly 3/4 of the children who come here show significant improvement. Some achieve partial remission. Some achieve complete remission. Some simply gain months or years of good quality life they wouldn't have had otherwise. I descended the stairs slowly, my mind racing. And the other 27%? Silence. Then Dr. Morrison, we lose them. But we lose them with dignity, surrounded by people who care, instead of in sterile hospital rooms being subjected to painful procedures that everyone knows won't work. How many children? I asked. How many have been through here? 63, Dr. Gregory said, over 5 years. 63 children, 63 families. 63 reasons my son had kept this secret. The third person, a younger man who hadn't yet spoken, stepped forward. Mrs. May, we need to know your intentions. Eric and Rebecca are gone. But the work doesn't have to be. We have 4 children here right now in the guest house down the hill. They're stable, but they need continued treatment. If you decide to sell this property, if you contact the authorities, there are children here. Now I felt the room tilt slightly. In the guest house, Dr. Gregory repeated. We moved them when we heard about the accident. We couldn't risk them being discovered if authorities came to investigate. I need to see them, I heard myself say. Dr. Gregory nodded slowly. All right. But Mrs. May, Elizabeth, You need to understand what you're stepping into. This isn't just about a house anymore. It's about 4 children whose families entrusted them to our care. It's about a team of medical professionals who believe in this work. And it's about your son's legacy. She handed me a tablet. On the screen was a video dated 6 months earlier. Eric and Rebecca sat side by side looking directly at the camera, looking at me. "Mom," Eric's recorded voice said, "if you're watching this, it means something's happened to us. And it means you've discovered what we've been doing. I know you must be confused, probably angry, maybe even scared." Rebecca took his hand on screen. "We wanted to tell you," she said, "so many times. But we couldn't risk exposing you to legal liability. We couldn't risk anyone using you to get to us. But now it's yours," Eric continued. "The house, the equipment, the protocols, everything. We've left detailed instructions with Martin Gerard. The choice is yours, Mom. You can shut this down, sell the property, walk away clean. No one would blame you." His expression changed, softened. "Or you can continue what we started. Dr. Gregory and the team will help you. The families will support you, but I won't lie. It's dangerous. What we're doing challenges powerful institutions. It threatens pharmaceutical company profits. It exposes the failures of our healthcare system." Rebecca leaned forward. "There's something else you need to know, Elizabeth. Something we never told you about Edith." My breath caught. "Their daughter. My granddaughter. The hospital sent Edith home to die," Rebecca said, her voice breaking slightly. "They said there was nothing more they could do. She had 3 weeks, maybe 4. But Eric and I couldn't accept that. We started researching alternative protocols, experimental treatments. We found something. And Edith. Our Edith. She lived for 18 more months. Good months. Happy months. She didn't die from the cancer," Eric said quietly. "She died from complications related to an infection she caught at the hospital during a follow-up visit. An infection that wouldn't have been there if we'd been able to treat her at home with our protocol instead of sneaking around the medical establishment's restrictions." The screen showed Eric wiping tears from his face. "That's when we decided, never again. No more children would be sent home to die if we could help them. No more families would be told there's no hope when there might be." Rebecca looked directly at the camera. "At me. This house is Edith's legacy. Every child who walks through these doors. Every family who finds hope here. It's all because of her. Because we loved her. Because we couldn't save her. But we can save others." Eric's final words. "The choice is yours, Mom. But whatever you decide, know that we love you. And we trust you. We always have." The video ended. I looked up at Dr. Gregory and her colleagues. "How much danger are we talking about?" "Significant," Dr. Morrison said bluntly. "The state medical board would shut us down immediately if they knew. The DEA might investigate how we're sourcing certain medications. The IRS would question why a residential property has medical-grade equipment. And that's just the official channels. There are also," Dr. Gregory added carefully, "pharmaceutical companies that would prefer our success stories remain quiet. Insurance companies that don't want families demanding treatments we've proven effective. Other medical institutions that see us as competition or quacks. But the children," the younger man said, "the children are real. Their remissions are real. The hope we give families, that's real too." I walked to the window and looked out at the Pacific Ocean, darkening now as night fell. Somewhere down that hill were 4 children who needed help. 4 families who had nowhere else to turn. I thought about Edith, about holding her small hand during her last hospital stay, watching helplessly as she slipped away. About Eric's face at her funeral. Not just grief, but rage. Impedent, burning rage at a system that had failed his daughter. He'd turned that rage into purpose. Into this. I turned back to face the 3 doctors. "What do I need to do?" Dr. Gregory's shoulders sagged with relief. "First, meet the children and their families. Then we'll show you how everything works. The protocols, the supply chain, the security measures Eric and Rebecca put in place. After that, we'll figure it out together. There's one more thing," Dr. Morrison said, "something you need to know before you commit." 3 days after Eric and Rebecca died, someone called this house. They said they were from the California Department of Public Health, investigating reports of unlicensed medical activity at this address. My stomach dropped. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. We didn't answer. But Mrs. May, Elizabeth, that call suggests someone knows about this place. Someone's asking questions. The accident that killed your son and daughter-in-law. Are we sure it was an accident?" The question hung in the air like smoke. I looked down at the key in my hand. The key Martin Gerard had given me. The key to my son's secrets. The key to a mystery that was suddenly much darker and more dangerous than I'd imagined. "Show me the children," I said. "How long do they typically stay?" I asked. "Depends on the child's condition. Some for weeks. Some for months. We had one family here for nearly a year." She paused at the guest house door. "Before you go in, you should know. These families are terrified right now. They trusted Eric and Rebecca completely. They don't know you. Should they trust me? I don't even know what I'm doing." Dr. Gregory turned to face me. "You're Eric's mother. That counts for something. But more importantly, you came here. You didn't run away when you saw what he'd built. That counts for everything." Inside, the guest house was warm and softly lit. A woman in her 30s stood in the kitchen, making tea. She looked up when we entered. Her eyes red from crying. "This is Elizabeth May," Dr. Gregory said gently. "Eric's mother." The woman sat down the kettle with shaking hands. "Mrs. May, I'm Julie Reeves. My daughter Maxine is..." Eric and Rebecca were... She couldn't finish. I crossed the room and took her hands. "Show me your daughter." Maxine was 7 years old. The same age Edith had been. She lay in a hospital bed, in what had been converted into a bedroom. But the walls were painted with murals of underwater scenes. Dolphins and sea turtles and coral reefs. An IV line ran to her thin arm. But her eyes were bright when she saw us. "Are you Dr. Eric's mom?" she asked in a small voice. "I am. He showed me pictures of you. He said you make the best chocolate chip cookies in the world." My throat tightened. He was biased. "But I'll make you some if you'd like." "Can I have chocolate chips even if I throw up?" "You can have whatever you want," I said, sitting carefully on the edge of her bed. Maxine smiled. "Dr. Eric used to say that too." Julie stood in the doorway watching us. Maxine was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia 18 months ago. She went through standard treatment, chemo, radiation, everything. It worked for a while. Then it came back, more aggressive. The hospital said there was nothing more they could do. Suggested hospice. "How did you find Eric and Rebecca?" "A support group for parents. Someone mentioned them very quietly. Said there was a place where children went and sometimes they got better." I didn't believe it at first. But we were desperate. "How long has Maxine been here?" 3 months. When she arrived, she couldn't walk. Couldn't keep food down. The cancer was everywhere. Julie's voice broke. "Now look at her. She's reading chapter books." She drew that picture. She pointed to a colorful drawing taped to the wall. A family holding hands on a beach. "What's the prognosis?" Dr. Gregory answered. Her last scans showed the tumor shrinking. Not gone, but significantly reduced. If the progress continues at this rate, she could achieve remission within 6 months. I met 3 other children that night. Marcus, age 9, with osteosarcoma. Lily, age 5, with neuroblastoma. And Thomas, age 12, with a rare form of brain cancer. Each had a story like Maxine's. Failed by the conventional system, given up on, sent here as a last resort. And each showed signs of improvement. By the time I returned to the main house, it was past midnight. Dr. Morrison had coffee waiting. "You handled that well," he said, handing me a mug. "I didn't handle anything. I just listened. That's more than most people do." He settled into a chair across from me. "Elizabeth, we need to discuss logistics. With Eric and Rebecca gone, we need someone to take legal ownership of this operation. Someone who can sign for deliveries, interact with suppliers, handle any official inquiries. That person needs to be you. I don't have medical training. You don't need it for the administrative side. Dr. Gregory and I handle the medical protocols. But the house is in your name now. The utilities, the property taxes, any official correspondence, it all comes to you. Which means if something goes wrong, you're the one who's exposed." I sipped the coffee thinking, what about the other team members? How many people know about this place? 5 core medical staff, including Clara and me, 3 nurses who rotate through. 2 volunteers who handle supplies and logistics, and the families, of course. That's more than a dozen people keeping a secret. Everyone has been carefully vetted. Everyone has skin in the game. Either they've lost someone to the system's failures, or they believe in what we're doing enough to risk their careers. Dr. Morrison leaned forward. "But you're right to be concerned. The more people involved, the greater the risk of exposure." "What about funding?" Medical equipment, medications. This must cost a fortune. Eric and Rebecca liquidated most of their savings. They also accepted anonymous donations from grateful families. Nothing that could be traced back to specific patients. Nothing that triggered reporting requirements. It's been enough, barely. And now? Now we need to figure out how to continue without them. The supply chain Eric established, the contacts who provide medications off books, the network of sympathetic professionals. It all ran through him. Some of those people won't work with us anymore. They're too scared. A thought occurred to me. The phone call you mentioned. From the Department of Public Health. Do you still have the number? Dr. Morrison pulled out his phone and showed me the call log. I recognized the area code San Francisco, but when I tried calling it back from my phone, I got a disconnected number message. Burner phone, I said. Whoever called didn't want to be traced. Which suggests this wasn't a legitimate government inquiry, Dr. Gregory said, entering the room. I've been thinking about that. If the state really suspected unlicensed medical activity, they'd send investigators unannounced. They wouldn't call ahead and warn us. So who called? I asked. Someone fishing for information. Someone who suspects but doesn't know for certain. Dr. Morrison stood and walked to the window. The question is, what do they suspect? And how do we keep them from learning more? I spent the next 2 hours reviewing Eric's files. He'd been meticulous, documenting every treatment, every outcome, every protocol modification. But he'd also been paranoid. Patient names were coded. Family contact information was encrypted. Supply chains were deliberately complicated, with multiple intermediaries to prevent anyone from tracing back to the source. What I found most disturbing was a separate folder labeled Incidents. Inside were reports of 3 occasions when people had shown up unannounced at the property. Once, a man claiming to be a pharmaceutical sales rep. Once, a woman saying she was from the county health department. Once, someone who claimed to be a journalist writing about alternative medicine. Each time Eric and Rebecca had turned them away, claiming the property was private residence with no medical activity. Each time, the person had left. But later, been seen photographing the house from the road. The most recent incident was dated 2 months before their death. I called Martin Gerard at 7 in the morning, waking him. Elizabeth? Is everything all right? No. I need to know everything about my son's death. The accident report. The Coast Guard investigation. Everything. A pause. Why? Because I don't think it was an accident. Another pause. Longer. I'll send you the files. But Elizabeth, be careful what conclusions you draw. Sometimes tragedies are just tragedies. And sometimes they're not. The files arrived in my email an hour later. I read them over breakfast while Dr. Gregory prepared medication schedules for the children. According to the Coast Guard report, Eric and Rebecca had taken their sailboat out despite small craft warnings. The weather had deteriorated rapidly. By the time other boats in the area noticed they were in trouble, it was too late. The boat capsized. Both bodies were recovered wearing life jackets. But the water temperature and conditions proved fatal. It read like a straightforward accident. Experienced sailors making a bad judgment call. Except Eric hated sailing. He'd told me that years ago, after a childhood incident where he'd nearly drowned. He'd only bought the boat because Rebecca loved the water. He never went out unless conditions were perfect. And he never ever ignored weather warnings. I called the Coast Guard station. I'm Elizabeth May. My son, Eric May, died in a boating accident about 10 days ago off the Mendocino coast. I'd like to speak with whoever investigated. Hold please. 5 minutes later, a woman's voice. Mrs. May. This is Lieutenant Commander Jessica Walsh. I led the investigation. I'm very sorry for your loss. Thank you. I have questions about the circumstances. Of course, what would you like to know? The report says they went out despite small craft warnings. Was there any indication they were experienced sailors? The boat was well maintained. Both victims were wearing proper safety equipment. Everything suggested they knew what they were doing. Just made a bad call about the weather. Did you find anything unusual? Anything that didn't fit? A slight hesitation. Why do you ask? Because my son was terrified of sailing in rough weather. He would never have gone out in those conditions voluntarily. Silence on the line. Then carefully. Mrs. May, are you suggesting something other than accidental death? I'm asking if you considered it. We found no evidence of foul play, no signs of struggle, no trauma inconsistent with drowning. The boat showed no signs of sabotage or mechanical failure. But you did look for those things. Standard procedure, we always do. And you found nothing? Another pause. There was one thing. Probably nothing. But both victims had bruising on their wrists and ankles. Consistent with rope or restraints. But it could have been from the rigging. From being thrown around the boat in rough seas. Without other evidence, it wasn't enough to classify as suspicious. My hands went cold. Did you include that in your report? It's in the detailed forensic report, yes, not in the summary. Why not? Because taken in isolation it means nothing. And I didn't want to cause the family unnecessary distress with speculation. I want to see that forensic report. It's public record. You have a right to request it. I thanked her and hung up. Dr. Gregory was watching me from across the kitchen. What did you find? She asked. Bruising. Consistent with restraints. Jesus. There's more. I pulled up Eric's calendar on his laptop. Martin had given me the passwords. 3 days before they died, Eric had an appointment scheduled. Just says, meeting SF with a time. No other details. San Francisco? That's where the mysterious phone call came from. Exactly. I kept scrolling. And look at this. 2 weeks before that, Rebecca emailed someone. The address is just a string of numbers saying, we need to discuss your offer. Not comfortable proceeding. Someone replied, time is running out. Others are interested. Dr. Morrison appeared in the doorway. Elizabeth. We have a problem. One of our medication suppliers just called. He won't deliver anymore. Says it's too risky with Eric gone. Which medication? The primary compound in our treatment protocol. Without it, we can't continue therapy for any of the children. How long do we have? Current supply will last maybe 2 weeks. After that, he didn't finish. Dr. Gregory's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and went pale. Elizabeth, you need to see this. She showed me a text from an unknown number. We know about the children. We know what you're doing. You have 48 hours to shut down and evacuate. Or, we notify the authorities. This is your only warning. I stared at the message. When did this come? Just now. But it's not sent to my regular number. It's sent to the emergency phone Eric set up. The one only team members and families are supposed to know about. Someone on the inside? Dr. Morrison asked. Or someone who got access to Eric's records. I stood. My mind racing. We need to move the children tonight. Move them where? Dr. Gregory asked. This is the only facility we have. Then we find another one. Because if someone's threatening to expose us, they know where we are. And if they know where we are, the children aren't safe. Elizabeth, Dr. Morrison said slowly. If we move the children, we need somewhere to take them. Somewhere with medical equipment. Somewhere secure. Somewhere that won't raise questions. That doesn't exist. Then, we make it exist. I looked out at the ocean. At the house my son had built. At the legacy he'd left me. 4 children upstairs, depending on us. 4 families who had nowhere else to go. And someone out there, watching, threatening, possibly responsible for my son's death. Eric's voice echoed in my memory. The choice is yours, Mom. We're not shutting down, I said. And we're not running. But we need to know who's threatening us and why. Dr. Gregory, can you trace that text? I can try. Do it. Dr. Morrison, contact every team member. Find out if anyone's been approached, threatened, offered money to inform. Someone knows too much. And I want to know how. And you? Dr. Morrison asked. I'm going to San Francisco. I'm going to find out who my son met with 3 days before he died. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Behind me, Dr. Gregory called out. Elizabeth, wait. You don't know what you're walking into. I turned back. No. But I know what I'm protecting. And that's enough. The morning sun was rising over the Pacific as I drove away from the house, leaving the children and their families behind, heading toward answers I wasn't sure I wanted to find. But there was no turning back now. The address in Eric's calendar led me to a glass office tower in San Francisco's financial district. No company name listed, just Suite 1847. I sat in my car across the street for 20 minutes, watching people come and go, trying to build courage. Finally, I crossed the street and entered the lobby. The building directory showed Suite 1847 as belonging to Meridian Strategic Partners. The name meant nothing to me. The elevator opened onto a floor of quiet, expensive offices. Meridian's suite had frosted glass doors and a reception area designed to intimidate all marble and chrome and uncomfortable modern furniture. Can I help you? The receptionist was young, polished, and looked at me the way people look at lost tourists. "I'm here about a meeting that took place 3 weeks ago. My son, Eric May, met with someone from this office." Her expression didn't change. "I'm sorry, I don't have any information about that." "Do you have an appointment?" "No. But then I can't help you. If you'd like to schedule a meeting with one of our consultants, I can take your information." What does Meridian's strategic partners do? We provide business consulting services to healthcare organizations. The answer was smooth, rehearsed. "Now, if you'll excuse me, my son is dead." The words came out harder than I intended. He met with someone here 3 days before he died in an accident that's looking less and less accidental. So, either you tell me who he met with, or I start making phone calls to every reporter in this city about how a consulting firm might be connected to his death. The receptionist's professional mask slipped for just a second. "Please wait here." She disappeared through a door behind her desk. I stood in the reception area, my heart hammering, wondering if I'd just made a terrible mistake. 5 minutes later, a man emerged. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of face that had spent years learning to reveal nothing. "Mrs. May, I'm Richard Kovach, senior partner. Please come to my office." His office overlooked the city, all windows and power. He gestured to a chair, but remained standing himself. A subtle dominance play. "I'm very sorry about your son," he said. "Eric was a brilliant man." "You knew him?" "We met once. 3 weeks ago, as you said. He came to discuss a business proposition." "What kind of proposition?" Kovach moved to his desk, picked up a folder, set it down again without opening it. "Mrs. May, before we continue, I need to understand what you know about your son's work. I know he was treating children with cancer. I know he was doing it outside official channels. And I know someone is threatening to expose the operation." Kovach's eyebrows rose slightly. "You're remarkably well informed. I'm his mother. And I own the property now. So tell me what he wanted from you." Kovach sat down finally, steepling his fingers. "Eric came to us because Meridian specializes in bringing experimental medical treatments into mainstream channels. We work with pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, regulatory agencies. We navigate the FDA approval process, secure funding, manage clinical trials. Eric wanted to legitimize his treatment protocol. He wanted to go public. Not exactly. He wanted protection. He knew what he was doing was legally questionable, but he believed his treatment worked. He wanted our help getting it approved, so he could continue treating children without fear of prosecution." "What did you tell him?" "I told him it would be expensive and time-consuming. Clinical trials alone would cost millions and take years. The FDA process is deliberately slow. During that time, he'd have to stop treating patients, or risk criminal charges. If we went public, and authorities started investigating his past activities, he must have hated that." "He did. He said children were dying while we shuffled papers, that our system prioritized profit over lives." Kovach smiled thinly. He wasn't wrong. So why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to make you the same offer. Your son's treatment protocol has potential, real potential. If you'll work with us, we can legitimize the operation, protect you legally, and potentially help thousands of children instead of just dozens." It sounded perfect, too perfect. "What's the catch?" "No catch. We'd structure it as a partnership. You provide the protocol and data. We provide the regulatory expertise and funding. Eventually, if FDA approval comes through, we'd license the treatment to pharmaceutical companies. Everyone profits. Everyone's protected. And the children currently in treatment would have to be transferred to conventional care during the approval process. We can't have active patients in an unsanctioned facility while we're seeking FDA approval. It would undermine the entire application." There it was. "You want me to shut down the facility temporarily? Until we navigate the regulatory process, children will die." "Some children might die," Kovach corrected. "But thousands more might live once the treatment is approved and available nationwide. Isn't that worth the sacrifice?" I stood up. "My son told you no, didn't he?" "He needed time to think about it." "He told you no," I repeated. "And 3 days later, he was dead." Kovach's expression hardened. "Mrs. May, I understand you're grieving. But that's a serious accusation." "It's not an accusation, it's an observation." I moved toward the door. "Thank you for your time. Elizabeth, may I call you Elizabeth? Think about what you're protecting. A handful of children in an illegal facility versus a treatment that could be available in every children's hospital in America. Your son was too emotional to see the bigger picture. I hope you're not. I left without answering. In the elevator, my hands shook so badly I had to grip the railing. Kovac's offer sounded legitimate, even altruistic. But something about it felt wrong. The timing, the pressure, the way he dismissed 4 children's lives as acceptable losses. I was halfway back to Mendocino when Dr. Gregory called. Elizabeth, where are you? Driving back. I found out who Eric met with. I'll explain when I get there. You need to come quickly. We have a situation. My stomach dropped. The children? The children are fine. But Julie Reeves? Maxine's mother. She's saying we need to leave. She got a call from her ex-husband. He's threatening to report us to Child Protective Services if she doesn't bring Maxine home immediately. On what grounds? He claims she's endangering Maxine by keeping her in an unlicensed medical facility. Says he's consulted with lawyers that he could get full custody based on this. How did he find out? That's what we're trying to figure out. Julie swears she didn't tell him. He hasn't been involved in Maxine's life for 2 years. Suddenly he's calling, making threats, acting like concerned father of the year. Someone got to him, I said. Someone told him where to find leverage. That's what we think too. But Elizabeth, if he follows through, if CPS shows up, we can't hide 4 children. The facility would be exposed. The other families would panic. Everything would unravel. I'm 2 hours away. Can you keep Julie calm until I get there? I can try. But she's terrified of losing Maxine. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her we'll figure this out. I pressed harder on the accelerator, watching the speedometer climb. My phone rang again. Martin Gerard this time. Elizabeth, I just received a very strange phone call. A man claiming to be from the Medical Board of California. Asking about property you recently inherited in Mendocino County. Specifically asking if there had been any medical equipment or supplies transferred with the property. What did you tell him? That I couldn't discuss client matters. But Elizabeth, this isn't good. The medical board doesn't make informal inquiries. They investigate based on formal complaints. Someone filed a complaint? Or someone wants us to think they did? The number he called from. I tried calling back. Disconnected. Just like that Department of Public Health call. More burner phones. More untraceable threats. Martin, I need you to research something. A company called Meridian Strategic Partners in San Francisco. Find out who owns it. Who funds it. What their real business is. Why? Because I think they're connected to Eric's death. And I think they're escalating. Back at the house I found Julie Reeves in tears. Maxine clinging to her. Dr. Gregory and Dr. Morrison stood nearby looking helpless. He says he'll have the police here tomorrow. Julie sobbed. He says Maxine's been kidnapped. That I'm involved in medical fraud. He's filed for emergency custody. I knelt beside Maxine's bed. The little girl looked terrified. Her improvement of the past weeks suddenly fragile in the face of this new threat. Julie, look at me, I said firmly. Is your ex-husband the kind of man who suddenly develops parental concern? No, he walked out when Maxine was diagnosed. Said he couldn't handle it. I haven't heard from him in 2 years except demands to end child support. So someone convinced him this was an opportunity, money, maybe, or leverage for something else he wants. But the timing. Right after the threats. Right after my visit to San Francisco. That's not coincidence. What do? We call his bluff. If he files for emergency custody, he'll have to specify grounds. He'll have to admit he knows Maxine is here. Which means admitting he's been informed about an illegal medical facility and didn't report it immediately. That makes him complicit. Dr. Morrison frowned. That's risky. If it goes to court, it won't go to court because I'm going to call him right now and explain exactly what he stepped into. Julie gave me the number with shaking hands. I dialed, putting the phone on speaker. A man answered on the second ring. Yeah? Mr. Reeves? My name is Elizabeth May. I own the property where your daughter is currently staying. The illegal hospital? I know all about it. You're going to prison, lady. Perhaps. But let me explain what happens before that. When you file your custody motion, you'll need to provide evidence of Maxine's location. That evidence was given to you by someone. Let's call them a third party. Your lawyer will have to disclose how you obtained this information. Was it legally obtained? Can this third party testify without incriminating themselves? Have you considered that you might be part of a conspiracy to expose a medical facility which could make you criminally liable? Silence. Moreover, I continued, Maxine's medical records will become part of the custody hearing. Those records will show she was dying when she arrived here 3 months ago. They'll show she's now improving. A judge will want to know why you're trying to remove her from a treatment that's working. Could it be you're being paid to do so? I'm not. Nobody's paying me anything. Then why now? Why, after 2 years of abandoning your daughter, do you suddenly care about her medical treatment? More silence. Then, someone called me, said Julie had Maxine in some quack facility, said I should know. Who called you? I don't know. Block number. They said, if I didn't do something, if Maxine died in that place, I'd be responsible. And they suggested filing for custody? They said it was the only way to protect her. Mr. Reeves, you're being manipulated. Someone is using you to shut down this facility. If you proceed with this custody filing, you'll lose. Worse, you'll expose yourself to legal liability. But if you call your lawyer right now and withdraw the filing claiming you were acting on false information, this ends quietly. Why should I trust you? Because Maxine is improving. Because Julie has been a better parent than either of us could ever be. And because whoever called you doesn't care about your daughter. They care about shutting us down. Don't let them use you. A long pause. I need to think. You have until morning. After that, I go to the police myself and report that someone is using harassment and false accusations to interfere with medical treatment. I'll provide them with everything. The mysterious phone calls, the threats, your sudden involvement. Let them trace it all back to whoever's behind this. I hung up. Julie stared at me. Will that work? I don't know. But we just called someone's bluff. Now we'll see how they respond. Dr. Gregory's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and her face went white. Elizabeth, you need to see this. Now, she showed me an email sent from an anonymous account to every member of our team simultaneously. You had your warning. Since you chose to ignore it, we're moving forward. The Medical Board of California will receive a full report tomorrow morning, detailing unlicensed medical activity at the Mendocino property. The FBI will receive information about illegal medication procurement. Local police will be informed of child endangerment concerns. By this time tomorrow, Elizabeth May will be under arrest. The children will be in state custody, and this illegal operation will be permanently shut down. You cannot stop this. You should have taken the deal. Dr. Morrison read over my shoulder. The deal, they mean Meridian. Kovach, I said quietly. He made the offer this morning. When I refused, he activated Plan B. What do we do? Dr. Gregory asked. If they report tomorrow, then we report tonight. First, I pulled out my phone. We document everything. Every treatment, every success, every child we've helped. We get ahead of the narrative. Elizabeth, if we go public, we'll be arrested. Dr. Morrison said, all of us, maybe. Or maybe if we tell the story right, if we show what Eric accomplished, if we make it about the children, instead of the legal technicalities, maybe public opinion protects us long enough to matter. That's a huge gamble. Dr. Gregory said, so is doing nothing. I looked around at the faces of my team, scared, exhausted but still determined. Eric and Rebecca didn't build this place by playing it safe. They built it by believing some children's lives matter more than bureaucratic rules. I'm not letting their work end because someone wants to profit from it. I pulled up my contacts and found the number for the one reporter I'd met years ago. Someone who'd written sympathetically about Edith's case. Catherine, this is Elizabeth May. I have a story for you. A big one. But I need it published tomorrow morning before anyone else can control the narrative. How big? Big enough to change how we treat childhood cancer in this country. Big enough that people will try to stop you from publishing it. Are you interested? A pause. I'm listening. Good. Because I'm about to tell you about a secret hospital, run by 2 doctors who died under suspicious circumstances. That's been saving children's lives for 5 years, while pharmaceutical companies and federal agencies looked the other way. I talked for an hour, laying out everything. When I finished, Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Elizabeth, if I publish this, you'll be arrested. I know. You could lose everything. I've already lost my son. I'm not losing his legacy too. All right. Send me everything you have. I'll have it ready by morning. I hung up and looked at Dr. Gregory and Dr. Morrison. Tomorrow, everything changes. Tonight, we get every piece of evidence we have into Catherine's hands. Every success story, every treatment record, every child we've saved. If they're going to shut us down, they'll do it in front of the whole world. And the children? Julie asked quietly. What happens to them? I looked at Maxine. sleeping peacefully in her bed. Her mother holding her hand. That, I said, depends on what the world decides we deserve. Catherine's article went live at 6 a.m. on the San Francisco Chronicle's website. The headline, Secret Hospital Saved Dying Children While System Failed Them. Then its founders died mysteriously. By 7 a.m. my phone was ringing off the hook. The first call was from Martin Gerard. Elizabeth, what have you done? What I had to do. Have you read it? Everyone's reading it. It's already trending on social media. But Elizabeth, you've painted a target on your back. The medical board will have no choice but to investigate now. The FBI, the DEA, they'll all come. Let them come. At least now the world knows why. The second call was from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. May. This is Agent Torres from the FBI San Francisco field office. We need to speak with you about allegations of illegal medication procurement and unlicensed medical practice. I'll be happy to speak with you. I have nothing to hide. We're sending agents to the Mendocino property this morning. I need you to remain there and ensure no evidence is destroyed. The only evidence here is children getting better. Come see for yourself. I hung up and found Dr. Gregory and Dr. Morrison in the kitchen, both looking at their phones with expressions of mixed terror and amazement. We're the number 2 trending topic on Twitter, Dr. Gregory said. Right after some celebrity divorce, people are calling us heroes. They're also calling us criminals. Check your email, Dr. Morrison said grimly. The medical board sent formal notices. We're all under investigation. They've suspended my medical license, pending review. Clara's too. How fast did they move on that? I asked. The email is timestamped 5:17 a.m. before the article even published. Dr. Morrison's jaw tightened. They had these notices prepared in advance. They were waiting. Meridian, I said. They told the medical board to have everything ready. The article just triggered the trap they'd already set. My phone rang again. Richard Kovac's name appeared on the screen. I answered on speaker. Mr. Kovac, Elizabeth, you've made a terrible mistake, have I? Because from where I'm standing, the world now knows what my son accomplished. They know children are alive because of him. That's not a mistake. That's his legacy. His legacy is going to be as a criminal who endangered children with unapproved treatments. Do you think the public will remember your touching story after the medical board releases its findings? After the FBI arrests you? After those children are removed from your care and the media reports they were victims of medical fraud? Is that your plan? Control the counter-narrative? It's not a plan. It's reality. You could have had protection, legitimacy, a path forward. Instead you chose public spectacle. Now you'll face the consequences. We'll see. I hung up. But his words haunted me. He was right about one thing. Going public had started a battle I wasn't sure I could win. The medical board, the FBI, regulatory agencies. They all had the law on their side. I had a newspaper article and public sympathy. Would it be enough? Julie appeared in the doorway, Maxine in her arms. The little girl looked scared. Mrs. May, people are outside, with cameras. I looked out the window. 3 news vans were parked on the road, reporters setting up equipment. In the past hour we'd gone from secret to spectacle. Stay inside with Maxine. I told Julie, don't talk to anyone yet. Let me handle this. I walked outside into a barrage of questions. Mrs. May, is it true you're running an unlicensed hospital? How many children are currently in your care? Did you know your son's activities were illegal? I raised my hand for silence. I'll make one statement. Then I'm asking you to leave. There are 4 children inside this house who are fighting for their lives. They came here after the conventional medical system gave up on them. My son and daughter-in-law developed a treatment protocol that helped more than 60 children over 5 years. Yes, it operated outside official channels. Yes, that makes it legally complicated. But the children who survived, who are alive right now because of this place, they don't care about legal technicalities. Their families don't care. They care about hope. That's what Eric and Rebecca gave them. That's what I'm trying to protect. Are you saying the medical establishment failed these children? I'm saying the system has gaps. Children fall through them. My son tried to catch them. The medical board says you're endangering children with unproven treatments. The medical board has never visited this facility. They've never examined these children. They've never looked at our success rates. When they do, I believe they'll find that what we're doing here works. If it's illegal to save children's lives, then the law needs to change. I turned and walked back inside. Behind me, reporters shouted more questions, but I shut the door on them. Dr. Gregory was watching from the window. That was either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. What's the situation with the other families? Marcus's father wants to pull him out. He's scared of legal consequences. Thomas's mother is staying, but she's terrified. Lily's parents haven't decided yet. We're fragmenting, Dr. Morrison said. Exactly what they wanted. Divide us, scare the families, make everyone scatter before we can mount a defense. My phone rang again. This time it was my daughter Rachel, calling from Seattle. Mom, what the hell is going on? I'm seeing your face all over the news. Something about an illegal hospital. Rachel, I can explain. You inherited Eric's house a week ago, and now you're running some kind of underground cancer clinic. Have you lost your mind? Your brother was saving children's lives. My brother is dead. And now you're going to end up in prison because you can't let go of whatever crazy thing he was doing. Mom, you're 63 years old. You should be retiring, not getting arrested for medical fraud. These children need help. These children have parents. Let them make their own decisions. You don't have to save everyone, especially when it means destroying yourself. Rachel, I'm coming down there tonight, and we're going to figure out how to get you out of this mess before it's too late. She hung up before I could argue. Family trouble? Dr. Gregory asked gently. My daughter thinks I've lost my mind. Have you? I looked at her. This brave woman who'd risked her career to work here, who'd suspended her license and probably destroyed her professional future. All to treat children no one else would help. Probably, I admitted. But I'm in good company. The FBI arrived at noon. 3 agents led by Agent Torres, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mrs. May, we have a warrant to search these premises and seize any medical equipment, medications and patient records. Do you have a warrant to speak with the children? To see what my son accomplished? That's not how this works. Then let me show you anyway. I led them upstairs to where Maxine was reading a book, looking healthier than she had in months. This is Maxine. 3 months ago, she was dying. Her hospital sent her home with hospice instructions. Now look at her. Agent Torres glanced at Maxine, her expression carefully neutral. Mrs. May, I'm not here to evaluate medical outcomes. I'm here to investigate federal crimes. Which crimes specifically? Unlicensed medical practice. Illegal procurement of controlled substances. Possibly mail fraud and wire fraud related to how you've obtained medical supplies. And potentially manslaughter if we determine your treatments harmed anyone. Manslaughter? Every child here improved. That's for medical experts to determine, not you. She gestured to her fellow agents. Start documenting everything. I want photographs, equipment serial numbers, complete medication inventory. They worked for 3 hours, cataloging everything. I watched them bag and tag equipment Eric had carefully selected. Medications he'd sourced through back channels. Records he'd meticulously maintained. They were dismantling his life's work piece by piece. When they finally left, they took 12 boxes of evidence and served me with a subpoena to appear before a federal grand jury. Don't leave the state, Agent Torres said at the door. And Mrs. May, get a lawyer, a good one. After they left, I found Dr. Morrison in Eric's office, staring at the empty shelves where records had been. They took everything, he said quietly. All our data, all our proof of what works. How do we continue treatment without access to our own protocols? We remember, I said, you and Dr. Gregory know these treatments. You've administered them for years. The knowledge is in your heads, not in those boxes. But the medications, they took almost our entire supply. We can stretch what's pre-prepared for about 3 days for the children currently in treatment. After that, we find more. We contact Eric's suppliers. We use his network. We, Elizabeth, Dr. Morrison turned to face me. Eric's suppliers are gone. I've been trying all day. They're all scared, all refusing to work with us now that this is public. We're alone. The reality of our situation hit me then. We had children depending on us, but no medicine. We had medical knowledge, but no license to practice. We had public attention, but it was turning us into targets rather than heroes. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your bank accounts. I pulled up my banking app and froze. My accounts had been frozen. All of them. A notice explained accounts under investigation for money laundering and fraud. They're cutting off our funding, I said aloud. They're making sure we can't buy supplies even if we found suppliers. Dr. Gregory appeared in the doorway. Elizabeth, Marcus's father just took him, packed him up and left. He said he can't risk CPS taking custody, can't risk legal liability. He thanked us, but he's protecting his family. I understand. That leaves 3 children. And Thomas's mother just asked me how much longer we can guarantee medication. I didn't know what to tell her. I walked to the window, overlooking the ocean. Down the hill I could see reporters still camped out, waiting for their next story. Somewhere out there, Richard Kovach was watching this unfold, probably pleased with how quickly we were collapsing. Behind me, my phone rang again. Rachel this time. Mom, I've been talking to lawyers. They say you need to shut this down immediately, cooperate fully with investigators and distance yourself from everything Eric was doing. If you do that, they might reduce charges. You might avoid prison. And the children? The children aren't your responsibility. Their parents can take them to real hospitals, where they'll be sent home to die, just like before. Maybe, but that's not your choice to make. Mom, please, I can't lose you too. Not after Eric. Please just let this go. I closed my eyes. My daughter was right. This was destroying me. My accounts were frozen. My freedom was threatened. And I was risking everything for children I'd known for less than a week. But I kept seeing Maxine's face. The way she smiled when she talked about her drawings. The hope in Julie's eyes when she looked at her daughter and saw a future instead of an ending. I can't, I told Rachel. I'm sorry, but I can't. Then you're on your own. I'm not watching you throw your life away for this. She hung up. Dr. Gregory put a hand on my shoulder. She'll come around, maybe. Or maybe she's right and I'm being foolish. Foolish would be giving up now. We're not beaten yet, but we were losing. I could feel it. Every hour brought new pressure. Legal, financial, personal. Meridian was good at this, I realized. They didn't just threaten directly. They squeezed from every angle until there was nothing left to fight with. At dinner time, Martin Gerard called. Elizabeth, I need to resign as your attorney. Why? Because the California bar just opened an ethics investigation into me. Someone filed a complaint saying I helped you establish an illegal medical operation, that I knew about Eric's activities and failed to report them. It's baseless, but defending against it will cost me months and thousands in legal fees. I'm sorry, but I can't afford to be associated with this case. I understand. Thank you for being honest, Elizabeth, for what it's worth. What you're doing is extraordinary. But sometimes extraordinary isn't enough. After he hung up, I sat in the empty office, surrounded by the ghost of my son's work, and wondered if he'd felt this way in his final days. Surrounded by enemies, running out of options, watching everything he'd built start to crumble. Is that why he'd gone out on the boat that day? Had he been running from the same pressure, the same squeeze, or had he been running toward something, a meeting, a confrontation, a final desperate attempt to protect what he'd built? Dr. Morrison found me an hour later, still sitting in the dark. Elizabeth, we need to make a decision. Thomas's mother wants to leave. She's scared of what happens if she stays. That would leave just Maxine and Lily, and without medications, without funding, without legal protection, we can't keep this going much longer. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we need to accept defeat, shut down gracefully, get the families to safety, and live to fight another day. You could work on getting Eric's protocols approved through legitimate channels, the way Kovac suggested. Kovac orchestrated all of this. He killed my son and now he's destroying his work. You don't know that for certain. I know enough. Then prove it. But you can't prove anything if you're in prison, if the children are scattered, if we're all too broken to continue. Sometimes retreat is the smart choice. I wanted to argue. But looking at his exhausted face, at the wreckage of what we'd tried to build, I wondered if he was right. Maybe it was time to let go. Then my phone buzzed one more time. An email from Catherine, the reporter. Elizabeth, you need to see this. I've been investigating Meridian. You're not going to believe what I found. The attachment was a corporate filing document. My hands shook as I read it. Meridian Strategic Partners was a subsidiary of Pharmacore Industries, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country. The same company that manufactured the standard chemotherapy drugs used in childhood cancer treatment. The same company that would lose billions if a cheaper, more effective alternative treatment became widely available. And the CEO of Pharmacore's oncology division? A man named Robert Gregory, Dr. Clara Gregory's brother. I looked up at Dr. Morrison. We're not done yet. We just found our proof. I stared at the document on my phone screen, reading it 3 times to make sure I understood correctly. Then I looked at Dr. Morrison. Get Dr. Gregory. Now. Clara Gregory arrived within minutes. Her face drawn with exhaustion. "What is it?" I handed her my phone without a word. Watched her eyes move across the screen. Watched understanding dawn. Watched her face go pale. She whispered, "My brother is behind this? You didn't know? We haven't spoken in 5 years. Not since I left Pharmacore to work with Eric and Rebecca." She sank into a chair. "He was furious when I resigned. Said I was throwing away my career, that alternative treatments were pseudoscience. But this? Using Meridian to destroy us? I never imagined." "He has billions of reasons," Dr. Morrison said quietly. "If Eric's protocol had gone mainstream, it would have obsoleted Pharmacore's entire pediatric oncology drug line. So he killed them." The words came out of my mouth calm, certain. "He found out what Eric was doing, offered him a deal through Meridian, and when Eric refused, he had them killed." "Elizabeth, that's..." Dr. Gregory stopped. "That's murder. We'd need proof." "Then we get proof." I stood up. My mind suddenly cleared. For days I'd been reacting, defending, scrambling. Now it was time to attack. Catherine's article got their attention. Now we give the world something they can't ignore. We prove Pharmacore orchestrated this entire campaign to protect their profits. "How?" Dr. Morrison asked. "By making them confess." Tonight, I pulled out my phone and dialed Richard Kovac's number. He answered immediately. "Elizabeth? Ready to accept reality? I'm ready to meet. Tonight, 8 o'clock. Your office." A pause. "Why the sudden change of heart?" "Because you win. The FBI took everything. My accounts are frozen. Families are leaving. I can't fight anymore. You were right. I should have taken the deal when I had the chance. And now? Now I want to know if any version of that deal still exists. If there's a way to salvage something from this disaster. To protect the children who are still here. And maybe continue Eric's work under legitimate channels." Another pause. I could almost hear him calculating. Weighing whether this was genuine surrender or a trap. "Come alone," he finally said. "No lawyers, no reporters, no wire. We'll talk." Agreed. I hung up and looked at Dr. Gregory and Dr. Morrison. "I'm not going alone. And I'm definitely wearing a wire." Dr. Gregory shook her head. "Elizabeth, this is insane. If Kovac is dangerous enough to have killed Eric, then he's arrogant enough to brag about it when he thinks he's won. Men like him can't resist explaining how clever they've been." I pulled out Eric's laptop. "Before the FBI raided, did you back up any of the patient files?" "Everything's on an encrypted cloud server. They took the physical copies, but the data still exists." "Good. Send me access. I want every success story, every treatment outcome, every piece of evidence that Eric's protocol works. Catherine's going to need it." "For what?" "For the story that runs tomorrow morning. Right after I get Kovac's confession tonight. At 7:30, I stood outside the glass tower in San Francisco's financial district. Dr. Morrison was in a car across the street, listening through the microphone taped to my chest. Catherine was in a coffee shop 2 blocks away, ready to publish whatever we recorded. Dr. Gregory had wanted to come, but I'd refused. If her brother was involved, I needed her away from this confrontation. Some things were too personal. I rode the elevator to the 18th floor. Meridian's offices were dark except for a single light in Kovac's corner office. The door was unlocked. He sat behind his desk, looking relaxed, confident. "I'm glad you came to your senses." "My senses, or my breaking point." I sat down across from him. "Let's not pretend this is anything but defeat. You destroyed me in less than a week. I gave you options. You chose poorly. I chose my son's legacy. But I can't help anyone from prison, and I can't treat children without resources. So, here I am. Tell me what happens next." Kovac leaned back in his chair. "Pharmacore is prepared to offer a generous settlement. We'll establish a foundation in Eric's name to study pediatric cancer treatments. You'll be compensated for the property and equipment. The current children in your care will be transferred to appropriate facilities." "You mean, they'll be sent home to die?" "They'll receive the best conventional care available. And in exchange, you'll sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. You won't discuss Eric's protocols. You won't give interviews. You won't pursue any legal action related to his death or the investigation into your activities." "How much? Excuse me? How much is Pharmacore paying me to forget my son was murdered?" Kovac's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Your son died in a boating accident. My son died 3 days after refusing your offer. My son, who was terrified of rough weather, somehow decided to sail into a storm. My son and daughter-in-law, who had bruising consistent with restraints on their bodies. I leaned forward. Tell me, Mr. Kovac, how does Pharmacore arrange accidents? You're upset, grieving, making wild accusations. Am I? Because it seems like everyone who threatens Pharmacore's profits ends up having unfortunate accidents or sudden investigations, or frozen bank accounts. I pulled out my phone and set it on his desk. I have documentation. Corporate filings showing Meridian is owned by Pharmacore. Emails between you and Robert Gregory discussing the Eric May problem. Records of payments made to Julie Reeves's ex-husband to harass her. Evidence that you coordinated with the medical board and FBI before going public. It was a bluff. I had Catherine's corporate filing document and speculation, but nothing else concrete. Kovacs smiled. You're fishing. If you had real evidence you'd have gone to the police, not come here. I came here because I want to hear you say it. I want to hear how you justify killing 2 people who were saving children's lives. I didn't kill anyone. But you know who did. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Colder, more honest. Your son was a problem, Elizabeth. A brilliant, stubborn problem. His treatment protocol actually worked, which made him dangerous. Do you have any idea how much money is invested in current pediatric cancer treatments? The research, the patents, the infrastructure, billions of dollars, thousands of jobs, an entire industry built on existing protocols, an industry that fails children, an industry that saves many children and makes reasonable compromises for others. Eric wanted to disrupt that. He wanted to prove that our expensive treatments were obsolete, that his backwater operation could achieve better results for a fraction of the cost. If that became public knowledge, if his protocol spread, it would be catastrophic. For Pharmacore's profits, for the entire healthcare system, do you think hospitals would survive if cheaper treatments became available? Do you think insurance companies would continue current reimbursement rates? Eric wasn't just threatening one company. He was threatening the entire economic structure of American medicine. So you killed him. Kovac turned to face me. I offered him a way out, legitimized the treatment, but slowly, through proper channels that would take years, maybe decades. Long enough for Pharmacore to develop competitive alternatives for the industry to adapt. He refused. Said children were dying while we played corporate games. He was right. He was naive. And his naivety was going to cost people their livelihoods, destabilize healthcare markets, create chaos. Someone had to stop him, someone, not you. Kovac smiled. Not me. I'm just a consultant, Elizabeth. I identify problems and coordinate solutions. What Robert Gregory does with that information, what resources he deploys, what measures he takes, that's not my concern. Robert Gregory ordered their deaths. Robert Gregory protected his company's interests. How he chose to do that? Kovac shrugged. The boating accident was unfortunate, but it solved a problem. I felt cold all over. He just confirmed everything, carefully, with plausible deniability. But, enough. Enough for the microphone taped to my chest. And now you're solving the same problem with me. Now I'm offering you a choice. Take the settlement, sign the NDA, walk away, or continue fighting and end up like your son. A cautionary tale about people who challenged forces too powerful for them. That's a threat. That's reality. What happened to Eric was an accident officially. But accidents happen to stubborn people with surprising frequency. Your daughter Rachel, she lives in Seattle, doesn't she? Works for that tech company downtown? It would be terrible if something happened to her. If she lost her job over some manufactured scandal. If she started facing the kind of pressure you've been experiencing, the cold turned to ice in my veins. You leave my daughter out of this. That's entirely up to you. Sign the papers. And Rachel stays safe. Your remaining children get placed in good facilities. You get to retire quietly and grieve your son without federal charges hanging over your head. Everyone wins. Except the children who die because Eric's treatment never becomes available. Some children die, Elizabeth. That's life. The question is whether your children, your daughter, your grandchildren survive. Because I can make problems for them too. I can make problems for anyone you care about. I stood up slowly, my legs shaking. You're a monster. I'm a realist. And you have 24 hours to decide which matters more. Dead children you never met. Or your living daughter's future. I walked to the door, then stopped. Can I ask you something? Did Eric know? At the end? Did he know why you were killing him? Kovac's smile widened. He figured it out on the boat. After we'd tied them up but before we capsized it, Rebecca was screaming, "But, Eric!" Eric just looked sad. Like he'd expected it. Like he knew this was always how it would end for people who challenged the system. "You were there," I supervised. To ensure it looked convincing. We cut their bonds before capsizing the boat. The ropes left marks. But nothing the Coast Guard would find suspicious once the bodies had been in the water long enough. He seemed pleased with himself. It was cleanly done. Professional. I nodded slowly. "Thank you for being honest. Are we done here?" "Almost. There's one more thing you should know." "What's that?" I lifted the edge of my shirt, showing him the microphone. "I've been recording everything." Kovac's face went white, then red. He lunged for me, but I was already moving, yanking the door open and running toward the elevator. Behind me I heard him shouting, footsteps pounding. The elevator doors opened. Dr. Morrison stood inside, looking terrified. I dove in and hit the button for the lobby. The doors slid closed just as Kovac reached them. His face twisted with rage. "Did you get it?" I gasped. "Every word." Dr. Morrison held up his phone, showing the recording app. "Catherine's publishing right now. And I called the police. They're on their way." We burst out of the building into chaos. Police cars were pulling up, lights flashing. Catherine stood on the sidewalk with her phone raised, live streaming everything. Elizabeth May just emerged from a meeting with Richard Kovac, consultant for Meridian Strategic Partners, she said into her camera. In a recorded conversation, Kovac confessed to coordinating the murders of Dr. Eric May and Dr. Rebecca May at the direction of Pharmacore Industries executives. The audio is being released simultaneously with this broadcast. Police officers surrounded the building entrance. Agent Torres appeared from one of the cars, her expression grim. "Mrs. May, you should have called us first. If I'd called you first, he never would have confessed. Men like Kovac think they're untouchable. They get careless when they think they've won." Torres couldn't quite hide her approval. "You're lucky you didn't get killed. I'm old, and I've already lost my son. What's left to be afraid of?" More police entered the building to arrest Kovac. Catherine continued her live stream, explaining the connection between Meridian and Pharmacore, detailing how a major pharmaceutical company had orchestrated murders to protect their market share. My phone exploded with calls. Rachel, sobbing, saying she was sorry she hadn't believed me. Martin Gerard, saying he was reinstating himself as my attorney. Julie Reeves, telling me Maxine had heard the news and wanted to give me a hug, and one call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mrs. May," a woman's voice. "This is Dr. Audrey Okonkwo from the National Cancer Institute. I've been following your son's work through the news coverage. I'd like to discuss legitimately testing his protocols with proper oversight, clinical trials, full transparency. If they work as well as your data suggests, we need to know. Children need to know." I looked at Dr. Morrison, at Catherine still broadcasting, at the police leading Kovac out of the building in handcuffs. He was screaming about lawyers, about defamation, about how this wouldn't stick. But his face told a different story. He knew it was over. "Dr. Okonkwo," I said, "I'd be very interested in that conversation. But first, I have 4 children in Mendocino who need continued treatment. Can you help with that? I'll have a team there tomorrow morning. We'll ensure continuity of care while we evaluate the protocols. Those children won't lose access to treatment. I promise you." I hung up and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for a week. "We won," Dr. Morrison said quietly. "We survived," I corrected. "The winning comes next. When Eric's treatment saves thousands of children instead of dozens. When the system changes because it has to, not because we broke it." Catherine finished her live stream and walked over. "You know you're going to be famous, right? This story is everywhere. You're the grandmother who took down Big Pharma. I'm the mother who avenged her son. There's a difference. Either way, you changed things tonight. Really changed them." I looked up at the 18th floor of the building where lights blazed as police secured evidence. Somewhere up there was Kovac's office where he'd confessed to murder, with the casual arrogance of someone who thought he was untouchable. "Eric," I thought, "I hope you're watching. I hope you know I didn't let them win." The wind picked up, cold off the San Francisco Bay. I shivered. "Come on," Dr. Morrison said gently. "Let's go home. The children will want to know you're safe. Home, the house by the sea, Eric's legacy. Our work was just beginning." 3 months later, I stood on the deck of the coastal house, watching the sun rise over the Pacific. The ocean was calm today. Gentle waves rolling in with the morning tide. Somewhere out there my son and daughter-in-law had died. But here, in the house they'd built, their work continued. Different now, legal now, but still saving lives. Mrs. May? Maxine appeared in the doorway holding a tray with 2 cups of tea. She had turned 8 last month and was still thin, but her color had returned. Her last scans showed complete remission. I made tea the way you taught me. Thank you, sweetheart. I took a cup and gestured for her to sit beside me. Shouldn't you be getting ready for school? Mom said I could skip today. Dr. Okonkwo is coming to check on everyone, and I wanted to be here. She sipped her tea carefully. Is it true they're going to let other kids use Dr. Eric's treatment now? Not just let them. They're going to test it properly through clinical trials. If it works as well as we believe, hospitals all over the country will be able to offer it. Because of you, because you made them listen. Because your recovery and Marcus's and Lily's and Thomas's proved it was worth listening to. You did that, Maxine. You and the other children. She was quiet for a moment, looking out at the ocean. I miss Dr. Eric and Dr. Rebecca. So do I. But I think they'd be happy about what you did, about how you didn't give up. I put my arm around her small shoulders. They'd be happiest about you. About the fact that you're alive and healthy and going to have a long, beautiful life. The National Cancer Institute had moved quickly once Kovac's confession went public. The scandal had forced multiple investigations into Pharmacor's business practices, into Meridian's activities, into the systemic failures that had made Eric's underground operation necessary in the first place. Robert Gregory had been arrested as an accessory to murder. Pharmacor's stock had plummeted. The CEO had resigned. And in the chaos, people started asking uncomfortable questions about why a functional cancer treatment had been suppressed, why children had been denied care, why profit mattered more than lives. Dr. Okonkwo had been appointed to lead a fast-tracked evaluation of Eric's protocols. She'd brought a team of researchers to Mendocino, examined our patients, reviewed our data, and within 6 weeks had recommended emergency authorization for expanded trials. This treatment works, she'd told me bluntly. It won't work for everyone, and it's not a miracle cure. But for certain types of pediatric cancers, it shows response rates significantly better than conventional treatments, with fewer side effects and lower cost. The question isn't whether to pursue this, it's why we didn't pursue it 5 years ago. The answer to that, of course, was money, power. The inertia of an industry built on existing protocols. Eric had understood that. He'd tried to work within the system and been blocked at every turn. So he'd built his own system, knowing it couldn't last, but hoping it would last long enough to prove what was possible. He'd been right. The front door opened, and Dooley emerged, dressed for work. She'd gotten a job in Mendocino, managing a bookstore. She and Maxine had decided to stay, to be close to the place that had saved her daughter's life. Morning, Elizabeth. Maxine, go get dressed. School bus comes in 20 minutes. But Mom, I know Dr. Okonkwo is coming. You'll see her after school, now go. Maxine made a face but obeyed, disappearing back into the house. Julie settled into the chair she'd vacated. She's doing well, I observed. Because of you. Because you fought when you could have walked away. Julie's eyes were bright with emotion. I never properly thanked you. For everything. For keeping Maxine alive when her voice broke. You don't need to thank me. Eric and Rebecca did the hard work. I just made sure their work didn't die with them. That's not a small thing, Elizabeth. That's everything. I thought about that word. Everything. It had felt like everything was falling apart 3 months ago. My freedom. My finances. My family relationships. Now those pieces were slowly reassembling into something different. Something better, perhaps. The FBI had dropped all charges once Kovac's confession came to light. My bank accounts had been unfrozen. The medical board had quietly closed their investigation, though Dr. Gregory and Dr. Morrison would need to go through formal hearings before their licenses were fully reinstated. Martin Gerard had helped me establish a proper nonprofit foundation, the Edith May Foundation, named after my granddaughter, to continue Eric's work legitimately. Donations had poured in once the story broke. People were angry about what had happened, angry about the suppression of effective treatments, and they wanted to help. We'd raised enough to fund the house's conversion into a licensed research facility. Dr. Okonkwo's team would conduct trials here, treating children who qualified for the study, documenting everything properly this time. It wasn't the secret refuge Eric had built, but it was sustainable, legal, and ultimately more powerful. Rachel's car pulled into the driveway at 9. My daughter emerged looking tired. She'd driven down from Seattle yesterday evening and stayed at a hotel in town. We were still rebuilding our relationship. Still finding our way back to each other after the harsh words exchanged during those terrible weeks. Mom. She climbed the stairs to the deck and hugged me. The house looks amazing. You've done so much with it. The foundation did the work. I just supervised. Don't be modest. You turned Eric's illegal hospital into a legitimate research center. That takes more than supervision. She looked out at the ocean. He would have loved this view. He did love it. He just didn't let me see it while he was alive. Rachel was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry for not believing you. For thinking you'd lost your mind. You were trying to protect me. I understand that now. You'd already lost your brother. You couldn't bear the thought of losing me too. I almost lost you anyway. When I heard you'd confronted Kovac alone, when I thought about what could have happened, she shook her head. You're braver than I gave you credit for. Not brave. Just too old to care about the risks. There's a difference. Dr. Okonkwo arrived at 10 with her research team. They'd been coming weekly to check on Maxine, Lily and Thomas. Marcus had returned to his family in Oregon, but remained in the trial under a local doctor's supervision. All 4 children were showing sustained improvement. The data was promising enough that the NCI was expanding the trial to 5 other sites across the country. Elizabeth. Do you have a moment? Dr. Okonkwo pulled me aside after examining the children. I want to discuss something with you. We walked down to the beach where the tide was going out, leaving tide pools full of small marine life. I'd started walking here every morning, thinking about Eric and Rebecca, talking to them in my head. We've completed our analysis of your son's patient records, Dr. Okonkwo said. 63 children over 5 years, with detailed treatment notes and outcome data. It's an incredible data set. Eric was meticulous. He was also brilliant. Some of the modifications he made to existing protocols, the timing, the drug combinations, the palliative care integration, it's genuinely innovative. We're already incorporating elements into our expanded trials. That would have made him happy. There's something else. 3 of the children Eric treated, now adults, have contacted us. They want to participate in the research, to share their stories, to help us understand the long-term effects of the treatment. One of them is in medical school now studying oncology. She said, Eric saved her life when she was 6 years old. I felt tears prick my eyes. He never told me. Never mentioned any of this. He was protecting you and himself. If word had gotten out, if families had started seeking him out publicly, the operation would have been exposed years ago. He kept it secret because secrecy was the only way to continue. Dr. Okonkwo paused. But Elizabeth, his isolation, the need to hide what he was doing, to lie to family, to operate in constant fear of discovery, I think it wore on him. I think it caused him more than we can measure. Are you saying the pressure drove him to take risks? To go out on that boat? I'm saying people can't live in hiding forever without consequences. The fact that his death wasn't accidental, that PharmaCorp arranged it, doesn't change the toll the secrecy took on him and Rebecca. They were exhausted, frightened, alone. They had their team. A team of 12 people isn't the same as having the whole medical community behind you. It's not the same as being able to publish your results. Present at conferences. Collaborate openly with other researchers. Dr. Okonkwo looked out at the ocean. What we're building now, the legitimate research, the open trials, the public acknowledgement of what Eric accomplished. This is what he wanted. This is what he died trying to achieve. So we honor him by finishing what he started. Exactly. That afternoon, Catherine came by with a cameraman. Her investigative series on PharmaCorp had won awards and sparked congressional hearings into pharmaceutical industry practices. Now she was doing a follow-up piece on the foundation and the ongoing trials. Elizabeth, this place is incredible, she said, looking around at the renovated facility. You've built something real here. We've built something legal, I corrected. Eric built something real. I just made sure it survived him. Don't minimize what you did. You exposed a corporate conspiracy, got justice for your son, and forced systemic change in how we approach pediatric cancer treatment. That's not just survival. That's transformation. She interviewed me on the deck, asking about the foundation's plans, the trial results, the children's progress. I answered carefully, making sure to credit Eric and Rebecca to emphasize that this was their work, their vision. But you're the one who made it possible, Catherine pressed. Without your courage, without my age, I interrupted. That's what people forget. Being 63 isn't a disadvantage when you're fighting powerful people. I had nothing to lose. My career was over, my reputation didn't matter. I could take risks that younger people couldn't afford. So age was your advantage? Age and experience. I've buried a husband and a son. I've watched people I love suffer. I've seen enough of life to know that sometimes you have to break rules to do what's right. Younger people still believe the system works. I'm old enough to know better. Catherine smiled. That's a good quote. Can I use it? Use anything that helps. If my story convinces even one person that age is strength rather than weakness, it's worth telling. That evening, after everyone had left, I sat alone in Eric's old office. His laptop was still here, though most files had been transferred to the Foundation's secure servers. I opened it and found myself scrolling through old photos. Eric as a child, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. Eric at his medical school graduation, Rebecca beside him. Eric holding baby Edith. His face full of wonder and love. Eric with a group of children on this very beach. All of them bald from chemotherapy but smiling. The last photo was dated 3 weeks before his death. Eric and Rebecca stood in front of this house, arms around each other, looking at the camera with expressions that were tired but satisfied. Behind them, you could just make out Maxine playing in the yard, alive when she should have been dead. I touched the screen gently. I did it, Eric. I finished what you started. The work goes on. The children are safe. And the world knows what you accomplished. No response, of course. But I felt something. A sense of completion, maybe. Or permission to finally grieve properly. My phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Gregory. Just heard from the FDA, they're fast-tracking approval for the trial expansion. We could have 20 sites operational within 6 months. Eric's treatment could be widely available by next year. I typed back. He would be so proud. Thank you for everything. Her response came immediately. Thank you. For believing in us. For fighting when we couldn't. I stood and walked out onto the deck one more time. The sun was setting now, painting the ocean in shades of amber and rose. Beautiful and melancholic and perfect. Maxine appeared beside me, her mother right behind her. Mrs. May, I drew something for you. She held out a piece of paper covered in careful crayon marks. It showed this house, the ocean, and several stick figures holding hands. In the corner, 2 figures stood in the clouds, smiling down. That's Dr. Eric and Dr. Rebecca, Maxine explained, in heaven, watching us. Mom says they can see everything we do here. I think they can, I said softly. I think they're very proud of you, Maxine. And proud of you too. For being brave. For saving their work. I knelt down and hugged her small body. This child who represented everything Eric had fought for. Everything he'd sacrificed for. She was alive. She was healthy. She was going to grow up and have a life full of possibilities that had once seemed impossible. That was what mattered. Not the awards or the media attention or the congressional hearings. Not my vindication or my public triumph. Just this. A child who should have died, but didn't. A future that had been stolen and then reclaimed. Maxine, do you know what you want to be when you grow up? I asked, a doctor like Dr. Eric, so I can help other kids who are sick. I looked up at Julie, who had tears streaming down her face. Then you'll be a wonderful doctor. I told Maxine, the very best kind. That night, alone in the house, my house now, truly mine, I wrote a letter, not to send anywhere. Just to write, to Eric and Rebecca, to Edith, to all the children who hadn't survived long enough to see this day. I know you tried to protect me by keeping me away. I understand now why the house was forbidden, why you couldn't risk my knowing what you were doing. But I wish you'd trusted me sooner. I wish I could have helped you carry this burden. I wish you'd known you weren't alone. The work continues. The children are safe. The treatment will save thousands, maybe millions eventually. You changed the world, even though the world tried to stop you. I'm not young anymore. This fight took everything I had left, but it was worth it. Every moment of fear, every threat, every sleepless night, worth it to see Maxine's smile, to hear Lily's laugh, to know that Thomas and Marcus are alive and thriving. You taught me something, Eric. You taught me that age doesn't mean surrender, that there's still time to fight, still time to matter, still time to change things. You taught me that wisdom and experience can be weapons as powerful as any other. Thank you for that gift. Thank you for letting me finish your work. Thank you for trusting me with your legacy. Rest now. Both of you. Your war is over. You won. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Someday, maybe, Maxine would want to read it. Or Lily. Or one of the hundreds of children who would be saved by the treatment Eric had pioneered. For now, it was enough to know it existed. A record of gratitude. A memorial to sacrifice. A promise that their work would never be forgotten. I walked to the window and looked out at the dark ocean, at the stars emerging in the twilight sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more trials to coordinate, more families to help, more battles with bureaucracy and resistance. But tonight, I could rest. Tonight, I could simply be Elizabeth May, mother, grandmother, guardian of a legacy, standing in a house, built on love and hope, and the stubborn belief that some children's lives are worth fighting for. The ocean whispered against the shore, eternal and patient. I listened to its rhythm and felt for the first time in months at peace. The work was just beginning. But the worst was over. We had survived the darkness. And now finally there was light. Thanks for watching. Take care.